The Spirit alone is voice. The godless draw the sword, and bend their bows for murder. The sword runs into their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. Psalms 37:14-15. That is exactly what takes place in the world today. Who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. The words of good men will make many wise. By a fool's lack of sense is death to himself. Proverbs 11:21. These two paragraphs are very important on what we have to say this evening in this lecture. Speech is one of the great marvels of God's creation. The combination of thoughts and words express what is in the mind of man. Have you ever thought of the deep mystery of how thought becomes speech? How the brain, vocal organs, throat, mouth, teeth, and tongue come into play to express a thought in the form of sound words? We speak, we utter a sound. Do we realize what happens when we utter a sound? How the whole body, even the chest, the lungs, the brain, the nerves, the mouth, the tongue, the teeth, everything moves in absolute precision to produce the word. The thought becomes the word in form. The thought that is traveling at a high rate of 186,000 miles per second is reduced to sound, a rate of 700 miles per hour, so that you can hear the thought in the word. That is what is happening now. The Spirit alone has voice. The Spirit alone creates the word. Nothing else can create a word except the Spirit. There is no other thought, no other power that can create the word or the voice, but the Spirit. And the Spirit alone has voice. That is the creative power of the Spirit, the thought and sound. Eloquence is the skill of selecting words, giving them harmony and rhythm through a voice tone that is vibrant. Think of the power of words specially selected and expounded through a voice personality that can sway millions. Words that sink deep into the soul to stir the human heart into a response that nothing else can. Here we see then a voice of the Spirit, and it is according to the enlightenment of the individual that enables that person to speak with eloquence or with ignorance. Wisdom is a gift of God, and he who wants wisdom can get it. He only has to ask and he shall receive. But those who ask amiss shall not receive the wisdom that gives true expression to the word of the Spirit, because the Spirit itself is wisdom. Where do you see wisdom in the world today? Are there many words of wisdom spoken in the world today? The secret lies in the fact that they do not know the mechanism that God created for the purpose of expressing himself. But man has taken hold of the tree of knowledge of good and evil and is beginning to expound that tree to the detriment of the whole of humanity. No one has yet seen the great truth of the one tree of life that has its roots in God. And very few have clung to this, which is the salvation of the world. But people are always found in this duplicity of good and evil. The tree that you are told that you are not to eat the fruit thereof, unless you die in your ignorance. That tree that grows out of man's mind. And by doing so, man has led himself into the trouble he is in today. But the miracle will take place. Mark you this: the Spirit alone that has voice shall speak, and the eternal shall be heard once more. In the hearts of man, the eternal speaks. That great saying is a truth that shall manifest in the minds of people when they have found out. They have been carried away with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Great achievements and progress are bound up in the thought-word expressions. The mighty power of a word can change a nation from a mediocre nation into a champion of a great cause. Jesus was master of thought-word expression. He also turned a few fishermen into the greatest word power machines the world has ever known. And in fact, each and every one of you can become one of these word power machines for the expression of the truth of life itself, to discern all the things that are false. When I tell you, it is necessary for you to discern the error. Do not worry about the truth. The truth exists eternally. You cannot create a truth. Do not worry about it. It exists now. All you have got to worry about is the errors, and then discern them and dissolve them. And when you do that, you will let go of that tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you will find the tree of life. Do not worry about the truth. I say, do not worry about it. The truth is, you cannot spoil it. You cannot destroy it. No one can destroy the truth. No one can argue about the truth. It is beyond the mind. Therefore, how can you argue about something that is beyond your mind? You can only argue about something that is in your mind, and what is in your mind is error. It is a belief, an idea, an image of the truth which is not the truth. Therefore I say to you, forget the truth and discern your errors. And when you have discerned these things that are causing you all the misery, you will know what they are, and the misery will pass, because you no longer perpetuate the error. It is necessary that you have had these words to know and understand the meaning. And do not listen to anybody that can tell you the truth, because they do not know about it. He is leading you up the garden path. Street, John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In another translation, in Moffat's, it says, the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was that Word. With this great occult truth, the profound secret of creation is revealed. God spoke the word of creation, and creation came into being. Here we see the magical power of thought and sound in the form of the Word. This combination nothing can withstand, for it is the essential instrument of universal creation and expression. If the consciousness withdraws itself from all creation, no creation or relative creation could exist, because the consciousness alone holds creation within itself. Consciousness is the boundary of the invisible, unlimited boundary, in which there is no outside. Consciousness envelops the whole of the universe, and everything is within the consciousness of God. And the consciousness of God is within everything. There is the paradox that we have to understand in relation to the relative world in which we see and understand. It is the relative world that we see, the relative world that we study. We see everything that is relative, even your thoughts are relative. When you think of God, you make God a relative God, do you not? Something outside yourself, an image in your mind. Do you not pray to this imagery God? You pray to an image. Is not that idolatry? Most of your prayers mean nothing. How would you truly pray? Jesus said God is spirit. You pray to God in spirit and reality. God is spirit, the only creative existing power in the universe, because nothing can come into being except through spirit. And spirit is the Word, and the Spirit alone has voice. And that is why, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was that Word. That is creativeness. Here we see the magical power of thought and sound in the form of the Word. This combination nothing can withstand, for it is the essential instrument of the universal creation and expression. The masters are aware of the potency of sound and cultivate a tone of voice that creates harmony and creative action. They know the power of a word spoken with the understanding of the truth behind it. If you look into your own minds and think of the words you speak, are there any truth behind the words you speak? You speak from your own emotional habit patterns, which were created and established within yourselves, that you have not discerned. Therefore you speak from ignorance. You do not know whether you speak from truth or not, so therefore you are confused. Most people use words with no knowledge of what they are doing, but when the knowledge comes into your hands, you are careful to choose your words with discretion, for the very reason that the power of thought and speech are allied and are expressed as one. A woman came to me the other day and said to me, "Doctor, I know that you are annoyed at me for asking you those various questions." I said, "No, I'm not annoyed. I was never annoyed with anybody." "Why do you think that I was annoyed with you?" She said, "Because you didn't answer me." "Well," I said, "if I answered you, I wouldn't have given you the truth. I'd given you an idea, something you wanted to know, and I didn't please you. You'd reject it. If it did please you, you'd accept it. So I say, why should I answer your question? Did I not say, go and think it out for yourself, and any answer you really truly arrived at, after you've discerned everything regarding it, will be the truth to you, not what I give to you." She said, "I see, doctor. I see now." I said, "Are you sure you see now? Now that we have realized the power of thought, we must also realize the power of the spoken word, which gives thought the added power of creation. Let us think how the ether is magnetized by the power of a thought. The electrons are swept into gigantic action as if struck with terrific force like lightning. Take sound now, which amplifies the thought energy impulse, causing displacement in the air as well as in the ether, creating currents of sound which affect the minds and bodies, all within hearing. Sound that is within the ultrasonic range, above the ordinary sound range. The vibrations of this sound which is created is not heard with the physical ear at all, but that sound is a form of vibration which penetrate the very walls of your atoms. It interpenetrates the tissue, the structure of the body. It passes through you, just as light would pass through you also, that is vibrating at a higher rate of vibration than 750 vibrations per second. There are lights that are flowing right through you. The cosmic ray flows right through the very atoms, right through the very center of the atom, even right through the electrons. And even you know what an electron is and the atom is. It is invisible to the physical eye, yet these rays pass through them and cause a change to take place in the atoms. A change for creating and building, and also the change for disintegrating the same atoms. So you have a building process and a disintegrating process, all going on, controlled and directed by a cosmic ray, a force of intelligence that passes through every cell of your body. Supposing that you could control these cosmic rays, what would you do with them? You would be the most powerful individual upon the earth, would you not? Yet you have the capacity to do so, but you do not know it. Time will reveal that man has all power given unto him, in heaven and on earth, above and below. Most people use words with no knowledge of what they are doing. Let us think how the ether is magnetized by a power of a thought. The electrons are swept into a gigantic action as if struck by a terrific force of white lightning. Take sound now, which amplifies the thought energy impulse, causing displacement in the air, creating currents of sound which affect the minds and bodies of all within hearing. When a word is spoken, the thought has the added force behind it, for it sets up vibrations in the atmosphere similar to thought waves in the ether. And they are joined together for the purpose of bringing the thought that is traveling at 186,000 miles per second, and they both mold together into a vibration that is traveling at 700 miles per hour. Therefore, that high velocity is now condensed into the atomic structure which you see with the physical eye, because sound is nothing more than vibration, and vibration is everything. Creation is vibration, thought is vibration. Thought and sound are the two things that mingle together to bring down the vibration of the atoms, those electrons, those etherons. Bring them down so that they are mingled together and brought into and condensed into a form that becomes a physical thing, known to you as physical or material. But material things are nothing more than this ether, itself modified and condensed, visible to you also to the touch. All is vibration. When Jesus uttered the words, "Be still," the storm abated. Not only did the winds drop, but also the waves, which revealed the greater expression of the word. Be still. The stillness was complete, yet when understood there is no miracle about it, but that a scientific law was revealed of which he was aware. He was aware of all the elements that existed. He controlled the ether vibration. He controlled the air vibration. He controlled the fire or expansion vibration. He controlled the water or condensing vibration. He controlled the earth, the contraction vibration. He controlled all these elements, which are the five elements, which the masters use in the purpose of reducing ether and vibration to a phenomena which you see as the physical thing. Jesus was aware of all these things because he was a master of nature. And what I have seen and I have been taught by the masters myself, I have given to you just the knowledge that I know to be true. And these things are not a fantasy, but an expression of the Spirit. The Spirit alone has voice. Jesus knew that the Spirit alone had voice, and the Spirit alone was creative. It created all things in the beginning. It was the creative principle that existed in man. Therefore, by his voice, be still. Not only did the winds abate, but the waves also, which proved the stillness of his own mind. In choosing one's words in speech, there must be an intelligent understanding of the underlying principles involved. The thought must be bound up in the words expressed. The thought is then carried in the sound, characterized by the tone of the voice with rhythm, harmony, and meaning. This produces an intelligent electric impulse carrying the thought or idea as its nucleus. Think into your own minds and see if your words are expressed in this way. Now think what a wonderful and gigantic power is placed in the hand of man. The masters say that this knowledge should only be given out to those who have developed spiritually. For if used by those who have acquired this knowledge without spiritual understanding, untold havoc can be done. It has been done in the past, and havoc has been done among people in the past, and havoc will be done among people in the future. A person without spiritual understanding has grasped this knowledge. By the power of his words, he has brought millions of people under his spell and led them to destruction, and himself as well. The same things are happening today before your eyes. Right through the whole world this is taking place, and what is the cause of it? Confusion in the mind of the people. Your minds are confused. I know they are confused. You read your papers morning, noon, and night. You hear one side and another. You do not know what is truth and what is not true. Therefore, you have lost your own self-confidence because you have put your confidence in someone else. You believe that they know more than you do, therefore you are too lazy to think for yourselves. Consequently, you follow a leader that leads you to destruction. But if you have sound common sense, you will know that you are in confusion. And if you know that your mind is confused, then the first thing to do is to get out of that confusion and think for yourselves. Confusion comes about through lack of self-confidence. You have no confidence in yourselves because you are swayed by the words of another. Where does the truth lie? In yourselves? And how will you know that which is beneficial to mankind? Well, the greatest master in the world gave it long ago. He said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." There is no longer any confusion. Your confusion disappears. And how do you know your neighbor? You have got no neighbors. Why have you not got any neighbors? Because you treat your neighbors as a piece of furniture for your own benefits. As your relationship to your neighbor, so is your relationship to God. And you call yourselves children of God. I am a child of God. Oh yes, you are a child of God, but you act like a heathen. That is truth. Unless I tell you those truths, you would never look into your minds to see where you are going. Let us examine what takes place when thought is formed into words and sounds. The thought creates impulses in the brain cells connecting with nerves reaching the lungs, the vocal cords, the tongue, the lips, the mouth, the palate, the jaws and teeth, the nose, the head, chest and diaphragm, etc. All these come into play to give voice to the thought and to give thought sound. It has gained an actual existence in the relative world, the world of effects. The voice discloses the character and quality of the person giving expression to the thought. The voice is the audible representation of the quality of the mind. That is why voice personality is so important in all walks of life. It is this combination that gives life to the thought and sound words. Where is your voice? Your head is the dome of the sounding box through which the sound flows outwardly in all directions. I speak my voice and my voice sounds there and everywhere, down to the end and right away back as well, because here is the sounding dome, the head. So the vibrations flow out in all directions. With it the thought and sound are mingled together. And when you hear my voice, you know my thought because they are both together. Mingled as one. Thought is a living entity expressed from life itself. The word is also a living entity expressed from life, for there is nothing else that can express voice in its original form. Thought is an electromagnetic force that magnetizes the ether. Sound is also an electric impulse that magnetizes the atmosphere. Thought is an ether wave and sound is an air wave combined for the purpose of creation. The Word that was in the beginning was the Word of God, the creator of all things in heaven and on earth. The inner and the outer become one by thought, word, sound. Therefore thought and word have the same creative force when combined by the living force expressing it. I am alive and living, I am life. I alone have voice. That spirit that is alive alone has voice. That is the power of the spoken word, life. Are you beginning to understand the power of the word that was spoken by the Master when he silenced the storm? Have you now confidence in your own words, or are you still in the kindergarten stage? The sounding box. Thought travels at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. Sound travels at the rate of 700 miles per hour. The transformation of ether into material is in the exact proportion to the thought which is caught up in the ether and condensed into the slower vibration represented by sound. Here lies the power of the Master's words. Ether is materialized by the combination of thought and sound. The word transformed the thought into form, arise and walk. There is no division anywhere. There is only wholeness and completeness. Division exists only in your mind. It is an illusion, it is a belief. It is through the senses that you receive these feelings or sense of separation. Your senses are lying to you all the time. They can only give you vibrations of light and sound and touch. And you create those vibrations in your own mind, which in themselves are only electromagnetic. The eye catches vibrations of light. The image of that vibration is in the pupil of the eye. It is transferred into electromagnetic vibrations which pass through the optic thalamus into the optic center at the back of the head. There it is dissected into various things and through the various centers of conception in the brain, so you have then color, size, objection and so forth. So the mind builds a picture of what is seen through these vibrations, all in the fraction of a second. Therefore everything is mental because all your senses, all your images are mental. So everything is mental. If you know that everything is mental, then you change it, can you not? The Master's knowledge of the fact is that everything was mind, was mental, was his power over everything that was physical, because physical was a modification of that which was mental. I am telling you knowledge now, perhaps that I should not be giving out, but I know perfectly well that the majority will never use it. Anyhow, you are sufficiently spiritualized to understand you will not use it to the disadvantage of yourself and others. Ether waves and airwaves equal thought and sound. Both are united in all that is material in nature. The ether wave is in the material as well as the sound wave is in the material. Both are carried in the material. The sound of the ocean can be heard in the seashell. The vibration of the sound of the sea is caught up in the atoms of the shell. Each individual molecule of the shell resounds the harmonious song of the sea. Even those walls receive the sound of my voice. And if you had an instrument, a magnetic instrument, you could extract this sound as it is extracted from the wire in that instrument there, Webster Wire Recorder. My voice is put onto that wire there, magnetized, and that voice can be extracted again from the wire. So can it be extracted from the walls, so it can be extracted from the ether. So can my thoughts also be extracted from the ether, because there is nothing lost. Oh, could I make you understand the most wonderful thing in the universe is you? Nothing outside you is so great and is so magnificent as yourselves. But unfortunately, book after book way down our weary shelves, the only point of ignorance is centered in ourselves. Everything in nature reveals its own sound, and we can hear it. Electrical instruments have been created which reveal these sounds. Everything in nature is electrical, carrying its own vibration both in the ether that interpenetrates the object as well as the molecules that make up the object. When we begin to understand this, then we begin to see nature herself in all her beauty and glory. So in every object there is ether which interpenetrates the very atoms and cells of that particular object. Yet that object made itself has come from ether, and ether is its foundation. It is held together by the consciousness. Consciousness alone holds the image to make it a relative reality in the relative world. Now, can you understand what phenomena is? You are creating phenomena every day, unfortunately to your detriment. Through your emotions and your fears and ideas flare up in your mind, your consciousness takes hold of them and therefore you fear them. You have produced a phenomena. Do you know that? Because a change took place in atomic structure of your body. That is why Jesus made it so plain to all his disciples, fear not, there is nothing to fear. He put a tremendous stress upon to fear not, to eliminate fear from the mind of man. The masters explained nature to me by the sound of the which I will deal with later. The pulsation of the heart is the rhythm of life, inaudible, being expressed in sound, audible. The then becomes the most powerful word expression that man can give. Because what does mean? Means the completeness of everything. Omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. Omniscient are then omnipotent and omnipresent. The three are the great and wonderful thing that the master sounds. And he knows what he is doing when he sounds it, because he knows what is behind it. When you sound the you may think it is a funny thing to sound the and you listen to the sound of it, and you do not know what you are doing, but the master knows what he says when he says Then he sounds the silently. The silent becomes then the thought, the power. And here is the silent the master expressed. The last was the most powerful because it was omnipresent, present everywhere. It went all through everywhere. First it was omniscient, all knowledge, all wisdom, then become omnipotent, all power. And then it became omnipresent everywhere. And you think that what I am telling you sometimes is the product of your imagination or mine. Let me tell you this, that what I am telling you now is the most glorious truth that man can find within himself. And if he dare to use it against his fellows, then it returns unto himself. Has it not been since time immemorial, that if anyone tries to dominate another, even individual, group or nations or whatever the case may be, that group, individual or nation is building the structure for its own destruction. Look back down through the various empires. The Greek, the Roman, come into our present time, just recently Hitler and Mussolini, who carried with them thousands to be destroyed with themselves. You are seeing it at this very moment. Little do the people know what is happening around them. That those very vibrations that are flowing around them are returning to bury them in the very vibrations they created. That is why the Master says, always bless them that curse you. Do good unto them that injure you. Do all these things so that you may be children of your Father that is in heaven. In the growth of the trees, flowers, corn, etc., there is motion, and there cannot be motion without sound. These sounds are above the range heard by the human ear. Nevertheless, there is sound in what is called the ultrasonic realm. This is the realm of the Deva. The Deva is a word given to reveal the occult or inner activity of an intelligence working on a level beyond the range of sound heard by man. I am not going into these occult things of the Deva because it is not our purpose. But many of you have heard of these things but have not understood them. Within man there is a mechanism that can sense the vibrations of sound, and when man has developed sufficiently, he can catch this vibratory motion, and by the power of his thought and word can change the entire motion, This is known as transformation of substance. By this method, the master can hasten the growth of a flower or plant or tree from its seed to its fully grown state in a few hours. This developed sense reveals the existence of immense forces awaiting the sons of God to work upon the secret process of actually growing a tree out of a seed. Within an hour lies hidden the knowledge of ultrasonic vibrations which combine the elements hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus, etc., etc. There are 5 natural elements behind all elements. These are ether, air, heat, water, earth. Each of these elements have spirits or devas which control them. But man has been given all power in heaven and on earth, and these devas obey you. The devas of fire, the devas of the ether, the devas of the heat, the devas of the expansion, the devas of the contraction, and the devas of cohesion. Little do you know about the great source of power and knowledge that the masters know. Do you know that in the mind there is the greatest microscope, greater than any electronic microscope could ever reveal to you? There is also the greatest telescope, greater than any telescope that could ever be invented by man. There is all the instruments that man could ever create for seeing into the relative world. These are hidden within man's mind himself. There is no book written or can ever be written, cannot be fathomed in that mental library of man himself. There lies the secret of all things. And yet it is an open book for man to find. Only it is necessary for him to clear his mind, to discern all the things that are hindering the expression of these wonderful gifts that God has given to man, made in his own image and likeness. The Father has life in himself, and he grants the Son to have the same life in himself. I am not saying that these great gifts are easy to obtain, by no means, but I know that they are there. And I know they will come into operation as soon as you cleanse your minds. Clear your mind of all antagonisms, all greed, all confusion, all conflict, all ignorance. I'm not going into the ways of acting on these spirits or devas for the simple reason that such information cannot be given out in detail till you have advanced sufficiently to understand the principles. Yet if any of you have grasped what I have said, you have already found the secret. In the natural way, the seed germination, growth, and bearing of fruit take years to bring into fruition the finished product. Each flower or tree has its own sound, so this slow, patient mood is accelerated by identical powerful vibrations through chanting the thoughtward sound of that particular growth, tree, plant, or whatever the case may be. Everything has a note of its own of itself, and you have your own note also. You can find it within yourselves. I cannot find it for you, but when you strike it, you will feel as a vibration from the top of your head moves right the way down to your feet. Your whole body begins to vibrate, and you will know you have found your note. So it is with every creation. There is a note in everything. That flower has a note. Everything in creation has a different note. The masters can listen and hear by their own very sensitive ear that is within themselves. The sound of every creation. Sound has a terrific effect upon the material world. Caruso could smash a glass with the tone of his voice. A violin will cause iron filings to group themselves and dance according to the notes played. A bridge can be destroyed by sound waves caused by repeated uniform impulses of marching men. The continuous playing of the same note on a violin under a bridge can make it collapse. The story of the walls of Jericho is no fable but an actual experience. Sound has a terrific power. That is why the invisible arm is so powerful. The secret of youth is to know and understand how to produce that particular word in silence. The ultrasonic vibration caught up in the thought which gives expression to that which is, not something that which you can create, but something that which is. So in the silent expression of the Ahmed is the expression of that which is comes into its own, to give expression to itself. Sound waves have been experimented with by many scientists who have been startled with the results, and the voice is one of the most fascinating examples in this field. Because the spirit alone has voice. We have seen in our previous lessons how electromagnetic waves magnetize the ether and affect people and things. How these waves enter into the very confines of the atomic walls, transforming them. So sound airwaves of a particular wavelength and with sufficient impulses sustained on that level can create convulsions among the atoms so as to burst asunder their cohesion, their grip on one another, forcing them into different combinations. That is how Jesus turned the water into wine, a knowledge of these things. I have seen these things done by the masters. And when in the Himalayas I was trained to do them, but I was forbidden to do them away outside the particular confines of where they were performed. The fact that it is not conducive to do these things. I can do it through healing people and helping people and bringing about different things for their aid and for their benefit. But these are the fundamentals, what I am telling you. You can see how clearly and distinctly these things come about. In this is the hidden secret of thought, sound, words, or ether, airwaves, or impulses which are constructive or destructive in the human mind or body, in the atmosphere, or in matter, as they pass through them. Thus it is with extreme care that the masters have guarded this esoteric knowledge of the electromagnetic sound vibration. A word is not a powerful thing on its own, but when expressed with the knowledge of thought, ether, sound waves, it has a tremendous force. Because those who use it bring into operation the 5 devas, controlling the 5 great fundamental elements that are the foundation of all relative construction in the universe. The 5 vowels, the 5 senses, the 5 basic elements. With the manipulation of these, the advanced adept can produce any phenomena. The one who is in possession of the secret of ether, air, waves, or thought sound formulas can control the waves, the winds, can move mountains, can bring rain or sunshine, and can do many more astounding feats. Matter is mind materialized. Thought words stir the mind into action. The adept is trained to understand this, so his mind is fortified. Disciplined and trained by the power of thought, sound, words having a definite meaning and knowledge contained within them to carry out what they are set forth to do. My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that which it is sent forth to do. Most people make their affirmations with the idea of overcoming something else, with the result that this something else is stimulated and the affirmation does more harm than good. Some experiments in detail in this most exciting, beneficial, and benign wisdom and knowledge will be given in our next lesson. Leviticus 19:4. Be not unreal gods, never make yourselves metal gods. I am the eternal your God. Benediction. O Eternal One, thou art alone, there is none other but thee. Within thy mind thou hast created all through thy thought and word. Now that I know myself, I find also that I create within my mind with thought and word. I now know the power of thy thought and word. O Eternal One, for I have seen the power within myself. Thou art the Word, and I am thy Word. How else could it be? O Blessed One, I thank thee for revealing this truth to me, that we are one eternally. O Eternal One,